Hello everyone. Yay, hi. Welcome back to my channel, Inkwells and Paper Trails. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today. I brought all my little Aries stuff. I have my little magnet, this really cute Tokidoki, I think that's what it's called, or I'll see. Yes, Tokidoki, little Aries unicorn. They have such a cute collection of these, and I became obsessed, and I managed to collect all 13 of them because Gemini has two little unicorns. So super excited to display this one here today. We'll see how long it sticks around for. And then a couple of little charms and trinkets that I gathered that reminded me of Aries. So, yeah, let's see. So I'm here today and I'm hoping to start a bit of an astrology tarot video series. In my own life, I really like following the zodiac signs as they shift through the different months, and I really also just like moving with the seasons. So these two things combined have just basically, I've found that astrology is a great way to capture the spirit of the season. And as I've grown in my knowledge and practice of tarot, I've also found that there's like correlations to cards between the zodiac signs and tarot. So I just wanted to make this little series kind of making those connections and talking about those cards and things like that. So really my plan is to, this first video, talk about Aries and the first Decan, and in, consecutive videos, I guess I'll talk about the second Decan and then the third Decan for Aries. But yeah, so I want to share just some stories and observations that I'll kind of pull from the cards, and hope that I can find ways to apply those to our own lives and to just have some things to think about as we all move through Aries, the Aries season, and the first Decan. So just really quickly, basic disclaimer here, these are just my intuitive thoughts, ideas, observations. I'm not saying that this is the way to interpret these cards or that this, whatever, these are just kind of thoughts and things that come to me as I look at these cards and spend time with them. So definitely not saying that this is the one way to see these things. So take that as you will. But yeah, with that out of the way, I quickly want to start just with a brief recap of Aries and kind of what the Aries season is all about. So generally this time goes from about March 20th through April 19th. So that's the month. Here I have my nice little tea and my Be Kind cup. Super cute. What's today's tea? Oh, I think it's like peach ginger. Very tasty. So don't mind if I take some sips along the way. But yeah, so end of March through April 19th. It's generally a season that's characterized by marking the astrological new year, right? So it's like new beginnings, new astrological year. It's the start of spring, and it has a very bold and entrepreneurial spirit. It's a cardinal sign that has like this fire elemental energy. So yeah, just kind of some basics around that. And oh yes, also I forgot to say, it's I guess considered like the little baby of the zodiac, just because it's like the first, right, in the whole series, let's call it. It has a lot to do with self-image, identity, purpose, and kind of self-confidence or just confidence. And yeah, so with those quick little tidbits out of the way, yeah, let's move into the tarot cards. So let's see here. Today, I'll be going over these three cards. So let me move some of these little bits. Okay, I think our little Aries unicorn will have to move for now. But maybe it'll make an appearance again at the end. We'll see. uh, anyway, these are the three. Let me switch the order here. These are the three cards that I'll be going over today. So first, let's start with the Emperor card. And so I hope that I don't drag on too long. I hope that you guys find this information interesting, ideally like insightful, or you can kind of take your own spin on it. But, oh, and before I keep going, let me just quickly show the tarot deck box that this is coming from. So this is part of the Zodiac Tarot. I love it. I love the connections that it makes to the zodiac signs, and I find their little guidebook just useful, fun, informative, brief, kind of to the point, you know. But yeah, so just to kind of make sure we know what deck I'm using in case you have it or want to get it or whatever. So yeah, back to the card. So Emperor, the Emperor card, card number 4. This one is connected to the Aries sign itself. And yeah, I'll start by noting, I guess, some points of interests or things that I kind of grabbed onto or noticed in this card. First, I guess I'll just mention the number 4 itself, which I think is often associated with like foundations of life, with structure, which I think is very appropriate to Aries. It's a a starting point, so it kind of does mark a foundation of life moment. It is a cardinal sign, which is also kind of part of those foundations of life signs. And next, I guess I'll point out, you guys are probably going to have a bit of a hard time seeing, I imagine, but let me see if we can zoom in a little bit. Let's see. Here we have, yeah, this might be better. So, okay, we have like, do I have a pointer? The silly things I think about. I have like my little letter opener. Maybe this will be good. A good little pointer. Okay, we'll try that. So here I noticed, his sleeves have like these suns, and I thought that was great. I guess it made me think of like the importance of taking action, right? And so like our hands, taking action with our hands to do whatever it is we're trying to do during this Aries season. So that's kind of the first thing that popped out at me. Next, I noticed the little white flowers, which I guess that made me think of first the importance or the symbolic connection to white as like a color connected to innocence, new beginnings, innocence, that kind of, they're little. So it's just like just a beginning of something, right? And when we're at the beginning of things, we often are innocent about what's to come or what the situation is all about. So I kind of liked that connection there. And also, let me see here, what else? It also, oh yes, I also thought of kind of with innocence and new beginnings, this idea of like the Fool, because that's kind of a taking off point or jumping off point. So yeah, again, just kind of those connections to the little flowers there. From there, something I found really cool was the, I guess the throne or the chair that the Emperor is sitting on. I'll just zoom out just a little so we can maybe get the whole card in there. Maybe. Let's see here. Might be a little better. Sorry about this, guys. Okay, so yeah, next I was thinking about, or I noticed the chair, right? First of all, it's very like sturdy, very much is giving me like structure and that number 4 vibes of foundations of life. But also, as I looked at the back of his chair, it kind of reminded me of, I guess, like the figure of death, or because death is always like portrayed as like this dark figure or like shrouded in darkness or whatever. And it kind of almost looks like, a head or like little hair there. I don't know, or a hood. So anyway, I kind of thought that was interesting, and maybe we could connect it to Aries because we're just coming out of winter, sorry, and that's kind of like, let's call it a death of sorts, right? So the ending of something. We're walking through like this door and now beginning spring with new life, new beginnings, things like that. So I thought that was kind of, I don't know, just kind of something neat, kind of cool. Something else that I found interesting in this card was the Emperor's staff. So it's, so long, gold, like a golden rod. It kind of makes me think of like a sword, and also I noticed the very top there. I'll bring out my trusty pointer. That made me think of the Hierophant imagery, because that we often see that little symbol on that Hierophant card. So what this made me think of was maybe like the importance of being in control of our thoughts, being commanding, and also like taking the lessons that we're bringing forward, maybe from winter time or from, past years or whatever, and applying those as we begin this new journey or start this new journey, new beginning with springtime. So I thought that was kind of cool, a good reminder, to learn from the past and bring those things forward with us, into our new year, I guess. And then the last thing, I think this is the last thing, yes, was the ram, of course, right? Because that's like the big I don't know, I don't know what other word to use for this, but like kind of like the little mascot, right, for Aries. So we have the little ram there, and it's so cute. Excuse me while I take a drink. So the ram here, and this made me think of like a Bible story, I guess. And also I found some connections to like the Easter celebrations that we have around this time. And so if you don't care for like Bible stories or biblical connections or things like that, you might want to like skip ahead like a little bit. But having said that, the Bible story specifically that this reminded me of was the one where, it might be in Genesis, I don't know, the one where God calls on Abraham to basically sacrifice his Isaac, his only son, because his other son that he had is like not like a legitimate son, and I think he's like gone. Anyway, point is, right? God asks Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, and that's rough, right? That's like a big command, a big ask. But just to quickly recap the events, Isaac is faithful and he's like, all right, well, we're going to do this. So him and Isaac travel up this mountain, and I'll just zoom out a bit more here. They travel up this mountain and to this sacrificial site, and right as Abraham is getting ready to sacrifice Isaac, there's like a divine intervention moment, and a ram is provided, I guess. So the little ram's and caught up in some bush or something, and basically that then becomes the substitute for the child. And so that is, I guess, the reason why I thought, and because like I said, Easter celebrations and things like that, but the ram, right? That's the divine intervention and like divine providence. So I guess I don't think you have to be Christian to kind of think about this life application or lesson, but it just made me think a lot about this idea of the Lord will provide, and the universe can be your substitute, or life, or nature, however you want to interpret that, but the sense that when we are doing what we have to, what we need to be doing, what we should be doing, what's right for us, when we are on our right path, our fated path, our divine path, whatever you want to call that, um, you know, there are challenges that come up along the way, um, but there's always like divine providence. And so I don't know, I kind of saw that ram as that reminder of, you know, be bold, be fearless, go after the things you need to, and just remember that all is provided for. Um, you know, what's meant to be will be, and kind of the doors open, right, when things are meant to be. So, so yeah, I really, really liked thinking about that and finding that connection to the little ram there. So, next here, I will move on to the Tower card. So we'll briefly move this one out of the way. And yeah, so here's the little Tower card. I'm shuffling my little cards back here. So with this one, this is, I guess, the card for Mars. It's the card that's associated with that planet. Mars is the ruling planet for Aries, and so there's that connection there. That's why I'm bringing this card out. And here, some interesting points, or some things I thought were cool, were first of all like these little smoke clouds back here. Obviously they're coming from this fire or whatever, but they just looked like storm clouds. And so I was like, oh wow, it looks like a, you know, like a storm is happening, which obviously there's like trouble brewing, right? So it's appropriate. But yeah, with that lightning bolt coming down and, you know, everything, it's dark, it's a dark scene. It just looked like a stormy kind of situation. And then I noticed the fire there, and that made me think of the card before this, which is the, what is it? The Devil card. Let me see if I can pull that just for a quick reference. Let's see. Bear with me. So yes, so this is the Devil card, right? And so those flames obviously are a repeating motif here as well, where we see the flames. So not hard to to see why I would make that association. But yeah, so that made me think of like that, like hellfire, I guess let's call it, or I don't know, a bad fire, right? And it's also the card that directly precedes this one. So it's not card number 15, and then this one's 16. So I kind of, I don't know, I found some significance there. We also see two people falling from the tower, and in the Devil card we usually see two people like chained or, you know, bound in some way. So I don't know, it kind of made me think, like what if this is kind of like that fiery situation, and this is a moment in time that kind of sets these people free from those chains, you know, like finally they are free to get on track again. Because when the Devil card's around, right, like nobody I don't think anyone's on the right path necessarily when that's happening, or, you know, like it's just like being under some control or some influence that we really should be or want to be free of. So while the Tower card, right, isn't great, like nobody wants to be struck by lightning, nobody wants their life to crumble down or their foundations to be turned over and just burned to the ground. Sometimes, right, those things are necessary in order to kind of clear the path and start over again, right? Or start something new, which is what spring is about. Here I even kind of see the clouds, the smoke clouds, is like a clearing, and then the lightning bolt is like maybe like our divine path, something like that. And so I thought, you know, that was kind of interesting, or something for us to think about as we kind of move through the Aries season, about, you know, how things sometimes crumble, or, you know, our foundations are shaken, and there is a lot of change that comes with the springtime. You know, a lot of new things coming up, new life, just even in nature, right? With new little creatures, new flowers and plants. And so there's some adjustments that need to happen. But ideally, those things are for our good. Something I really like to hear some card readers talk about when they bring up this card is that the tower happens for us, not to us. And so trying to remember that, you know, all things work out for the best, for our best in the end, ideally, right? So yeah, just kind of something, a nice little message there to think about with regards to the fire and all of that. Something else that I saw in this card that I thought was interesting was the top of the tower. It really reminded me of the crown that is on the emperor. So it might be hard to see. I'm going to see if I can zoom in here real quick. But here, if we take a close look, we can see that, we'll use the little pointer for that. We can see that little shape on his crown, and it's the same, let's see, it's the same kind of shape here, um, that little rainbow kind of shape, right? Little U shape. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Because of that, you know, this just made me think of like, oh, the crown falling off of the emperor, if we kind of personify the tower as like a person, or like even the emperor himself. But yeah, you know, sometimes Aries is a lot about bold, assertive action, but sometimes it's also about like being very like full of yourself, very proud, um, and like impulsive, I guess. And so this is kind of a reminder that when that happens, you know, it's not too far off that we get shown that you gotta humble down, right? So the crown gets taken off the emperor, so to speak, and we're brought down to earth, where it's like, okay, yeah, you're cool, but you're not that cool, like, you know, humble down kind of thing. And so I thought that was also a good message to kind of carry forward. Obviously, a lot of these messages are, you know, great for like all year, but particularly as we're moving through the Aries season and the first decan, just things to remember, right? Let's take that decisive, bold action. Let's be assertive and all of that, but let's also be humble and, you know, realistic, and have our feet on the ground and not get too far ahead of ourselves. So again, here with this card, I'm reminded of a different Bible story, which again, if you don't care for that, please fast forward a little bit. But for this in particular, some of you may be familiar with the story of Babel, which is a story about a group of people, a community that comes together to build this, you know, like the greatest tower ever, basically, right? This big structure that they hope and really believe is going to reach God Himself and just kind of show the man who's boss kind of thing, you know. So there's a lot of like hubris in that, a lot of pride, and they're working hard to get this project, you know, off the ground, so to speak. And of course, God like isn't pleased with that. So what happens? He strikes them with a sense of confusion, and these people like are unable to communicate with each other, because I think they're like literally like now speaking different languages, and there's just no communication. And so of course that means the project doesn't end up going anywhere. And I think that again we can kind of apply these ideas to the card, to the season, to our life, in the sense of like, let's not let ourselves get to that point, right? Let's be realistic in our goals. You know, we don't have to, we can be ambitious and have these high aims, but, you know, within reason, I guess, and also um, being, having structure to our goals, and like pacing ourselves. Because sometimes when you take on a big goal, the saying goes, biting off more than you can chew. Sometimes you can be overwhelmed by the scope of things, and then you just can't do it, or it doesn't end up going anywhere. So it just is a reminder that we're at the start of our journey, right? With Aries here, we're starting a new astrological new year, and so we have ideally 12 months to reach our goal or reach fulfillment or whatever it is, that endpoint that we're trying to go towards. And so let's pace ourselves. Let's have those high, ambitious goals. Let's have our dreams, but let's try to plan them appropriately, I guess. Okay. Other things here that I noticed and thought were kind of cool. These little things down here. Let me see if I can zoom into that. And yeah, so here I'll use my little trusty pointer again. So there, initially I thought, oh, it's like a horseshoe, and good luck to you guys, because they're like, ooh, tumbling down. But then I remembered the north and south nodes, the lunar nodes, and I saw these little moons down here, so I was like, oh, hey, maybe I can think of these as the lunar nodes. And that reminded me of right, the north node is our higher destiny or whatever, and then the south node is kind of the things, our foundations, I guess, like the things that we're good at, or what we've kind of gained skill or are skilled at, and then what we're kind of trying to grow from. So I thought that was kind of neat to keep in mind, north node and south node, lunar nodes, as we also go through the Aries season, because we are called to, try to ascend to our higher purpose, our destiny, things like that. So, okay, I think that's all I have to say about this card. Let's see here. Next, we can move on to that card. The Two of Wands. Sorry, I'm trying to think here, get myself organized. So, here with this card, what we get is this young lady, I'm guessing young lady, I don't know, woman, and she's in the middle of these two wands. So, first I wanted to talk about her beautiful dress, right? Has these little stars and moons there, and so what it made me think of is that she's it looks to me like she's literally clothed in her hopes and dreams, because I associate the star with hopes and dreams. So, she's being unapologetic about that. She's being authentic about that. And, she's just kind of putting it all out there. And so I think that to me was like a reminder of, again, that spirit during the Aries season, to be bold, to put yourself out there, to get clarity on what it is that we're trying to achieve or focus on for the next, year or whatever. So here with her, she also has kind of on that same point is the wands, but anyway, sorry, I sidetracked. So focusing on her dress, I also noticed her let me see if I can zoom in on that. The moons, the waxing and waning moons on her shoulders, and it made me think of her as the full moon, right? Things are shining. The sun is shining through the moon or whatever, and kind of her necklace even makes me think of the sun. So she's fully illuminated, right? Her feelings about what she wants to pursue are becoming clear, or are, clear. And again, just kind of going back to that sense of, it's good to get clarity on the things that we want during the season, and to not be ashamed of that, to have some pride. Sorry, that was my window. To have some pride in our hopes and dreams, and to just go after that, and to not hide them away. And yeah, so next we see, I'll focus on, I guess, the little globe in her hand, which made me think of the World card, which is a lot about new beginnings, right? We've reached an end and going into a new beginning. But it also made me think of the Empress card, which often is a woman that's like pregnant. I have a Light Seers deck, and in that deck, the Empress is, she's pregnant, but the world is like her belly, which is a very unique illustration. I mean, I don't know how unique it is, but it was, you know, it's just one that stands out in my mind. I wish I could pull it for you. Let me see if I can grab that. Okay, one sec. Okay, and we're back. I found the card. So yeah, this is what I mean. It's a really cool image. And it, you know, obviously has that world in her belly. And so I don't know. I was reminded of that card. Because, you know, the world there, I think of, yes, new beginnings, but also like that seed, right? That it looks almost like a seed. And this is a moment to kind of plant those seeds so that we can, as time goes on, as the year goes on, we can kind of start to see that grow and reap that harvest, I guess, right? When the time comes. Also, it made me think of that saying, the world is your oyster. So when you're at the start of a journey or a new path or something like that, right? That's a saying we often share, you know, the world is your oyster, the world is full of promise, the path before you is just brand new, and there's so much potential and anything could happen. So it kind of made me think of that when I saw her holding the world there. And then let's see. I don't know if you guys can hear a lot of the sounds behind me, like my dog is kind of whiny and drinking water and just being distracted and distracting me. So sorry about that if it's coming through. But I guess I'll go ahead and move on to now talking about the two wands here. I thought it was interesting to note that the wand that she's actually holding in her hand is the one with less like leaves, less growth. I don't know. I wondered, I guess, if that was about maybe working on our weaknesses or the things that aren't as strong within us. Maybe that's one interpretation. Or also just the idea of the two wands, right? Being at a crossroads. All right, sorry, I had a brief interruption there, but where was I? I think I was talking about the wands. So yes, I think, and these may be common interpretations too. I don't know. But so being at a crossroads, I was reminded of that Robert Frost poem, The Road Less Taken, I believe is what it's called, or The Road Not Taken. And, that's about kind of being at a crossroads and trying to decide which path should I take. Where do I go? And in that poem, they obviously do the road less traveled. So I don't know if that's kind of what that's about. Maybe a reminder for us that when we follow our path, it's usually tailor-made, or it's less traveled because it's unique to us. So I don't know, something to think about, I guess, with that. And then lastly here, I want to point out the beautiful little flowers that are down here at her feet. So they're these almost sparkling little yellow flowers. And again, that made me think of like, oh, follow the yellow brick road, right, from that Wizard of Oz movie. And it also made me think again back to that Robert Frost poem, because in that poem, he says, the poem starts with like being at a yellow, two roads converged on a yellow wood, I believe is the line. And so again, that color yellow that comes through for being at this crossroads and following our destiny. And it kind of makes me think back to that golden path, right, where we see like that golden rod. So the path that we should be taking, the path that is meant for us, our destiny. I don't know, kind of cool to think about. And I think, I don't know, I think a lot of times, life gets very busy and loud, and there's so much going on all around us. And that can be, especially around holiday seasons or like around springtime when there's a lot of change going on, and we might be pulled in like a lot of different directions, might become uncertain or confused about, what do I put my energy into? What do I focus on? What are my goals? Who am I? These big questions sometimes that come up, right? And so I think sometimes we just need to remember that when we try to quiet down or be still, the path is there before us. We just need to kind of focus a little bit sometimes and kind of pay attention, because it can be easy to miss. She's looking elsewhere. She's not looking at that path. But perhaps she knows that it's there. Maybe that's why she's, in the middle of those flowers. Or maybe we need sometimes like a bit of a wake-up call to really come back to our roots and become aligned again with what matters in life, or what we really want to grow and who we want to become. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think that, there's a lot to think about. And when you start to, get into the rabbit hole of like looking at things and the symbolism and trying to analyze, there's so much that can be said. It can be like infinite, never ending. And so these are just, I guess, some things that kind of came up at this moment. I'm sure that, as I spend more time or look at these cards, as the years go by or whatever, you start to see different things, or you might prioritize some things over others. But point is, it's just fun. It's nice to think about things, to slow down sometimes and just kind of reflect, and see how, what can we take back to our daily lives? How can we apply some of these lessons, So I hope that you guys found this video interesting, maybe something that you can think about. And I'd love to hear from you too. Like, what do you guys think? What do you see in the cards? How do you connect to, Aries and the first Decan? Feel free to share down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, with that, I guess I'll see you guys again soon, I hope, with Aries Decan 2. Hopefully some good things to talk about then as well. Until then, take care. Hope you guys do well, are doing well, and I'll see you soon. Bye.